Christmas is right around the corner. And unless you're Santa Claus, fellas, it's best we keep our hair in check, which is why we've partnered with Manscaped for today's video. You see, Manscaped is revolutionizing men's grooming, 2 balls at a time. Introducing the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra, featuring their new and improved Lawnmower 5.0 trimmer. And the technology here is in the dual blades, perfectly designed to cut through the toughest hair, leave you with a sleek finish, all while gently caressing your skin. And again, that's 2 trimmers for the price of 1. You can also tackle those pesky nose hair with Weed Whacker 2.0 and finish your groom off with Manscaped's Crop Soother and Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant, a killer combo that leave your nether regions relax and refresh. In classic holiday fashion, Manscaped is including 2 free gifts with all Performance Package orders. Their specially tailored Boxers 2.0 for ultimate comfort and Shed 2.0 toiletry bag to neatly store your entire grooming arsenal. Fellas, if you're interested today, head on over to manscaped.com and use code Aztecross for 20% off plus free international shipping with those 2 free gifts. Again, big thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring today's video. Fellas, we need to talk about Polaris Lance. To most of you, this may just be some long forgotten exotic scout rifle, and right now, you're probably thinking, why in the hell would I ever use this anywhere inside of Destiny? Well, guys, it is one of the most powerful weapons this season. And listen, this is coming from someone who just reviewed Sunshot, and I thought Sunshot benefited the most here from the artifact mods, from Solar Surge, and don't get me wrong, Sunshot is phenomenal, but Polaris Lance is the GM king for this season. Do you see these ignitions? Do you see that a single Polaris Lance is leveling everything? And not just ads, because a lot of times we're like, yo, look at this weapon or look at this build. Look how good it can clear ads. No, look how good it's taking on champions. Because with the right build and the right fragments and artifact mods, you have the ability to stun unstoppable champions. And you also have the ability to deal with barrier champions. And the meatier the target, the better. Matter of fact, that's exactly what you want to be hitting. You want to find the thickest targets and lay into them, as anything around that target will die very soon due to those ignitions. Now, how is Polaris Lance proccing these ignitions? First up, its exotic intrinsic perk is the perfect fifth. Precision hits return ammo to the magazine, and landing 4 precision hits loads a delayed solar explosive round for your next shot. Now, 2 things here, guys. The precision hits returning ammo to the mag, you can literally sit there at 1 shot left in the magazine and just keep landing it over and over as long as it's precision, and you will not have to reload. Now, landing 4 precision hits loads a delayed solar explosive round for your next shot. Now, pre-Lightfall, that used to be a custom burn. Bungie actually made this update right here where they stated that perfect fifth shots now apply 40 plus 20 scorch stacks instead of a custom burn. It was actually a nerf inside of PvP, as you used to be able to 2-tap at one time with Polaris Lance, but inside of PvE, it was a huge buff. What this meant, at least pre-season the Wish, was that you could achieve an ignition with back-to-back perfect fifth procs. But this season, you can achieve an ignition with a single proc of perfect fifth. Matter of fact, not only can you proc it within those 5 precision shots, but you can keep re-procking ignitions every 2 shots after. This is nuts, guys. Dare I say, in the right Nightfall, we are in a scout rifle meta because of Polaris Lance. Now let's talk about the things that are contributing to these ignitions. First up, we have Flint Striker. Rapid solar weapon precision hits and rapid solar weapon final blows grant radiant. Considering the entire identity of Polaris Lance is landing precision shots, this is perfect. Now, Kindling Trigger. This is the thing that's going to give you that ignition. Radiant causes solar weapons to apply scorch to unscorched combatants. Guys, if you're looking to educate yourself on the artifact mods in depth, we do a breakdown every season. But essentially, guys, Kindling Trigger allows you to apply scorch stacks with your solar weapons while radiant. Now, what it does not state is that it scorch stacks on the front end, meaning you cannot sit there and keep laying on the trigger with the solar weapon, applying scorch over and over with Kindling Trigger. It gives you at base 25 scorch stacks, and that's it. The only way you're gonna reach ignition is if you use a weapon that can apply scorch intrinsically. For instance, Polaris Lance. Now, if we were to take Ember of Ashes, which states that we apply more scorch stacks to targets, this actually increases our scorch stacks from Kindling Trigger up to times 40. And considering Polaris Lance gives us 40 plus 20 scorch stacks, you see where I'm going with this, guys? That's that perfect 100. That right there is what we're trying to achieve, and that's how we're getting an ignition in a single proc of perfect fifth. Now, I want you to know, guys, this is intentional, right? This is no bug. This isn't something that Bungie accidentally gave us. This was intentional to make Polaris Lance nasty. Somebody at Bungie likes Polaris Lance, because with this combination, they just gifted us one of the best exotic weapons this season, which, by the way, you can pick up literally at the tower at the kiosk. And the Catalyst, which gives you Dragonfly, drops from Ritual playlists. Now, let's talk about the rest of our loadouts. We have Revitalize Paralyzing Blast, which states that causing damage with a solar ability weakens champions and bosses for a short duration. We've got Raise of Precision, which states that while radiant, solar precision final blows cause combatants to ignite. For those moments where we kill an enemy before we can proc Perfect Fifth, boom, ignite they go. We're also rocking From Whence You Came, which increases our ability damage to taken and scoring combatants. Also Torch, which states that while radiant, we deal increased weapon damage to combatants affected by strain and stasis debuffs. I'm rocking Riptide. For the occasional moments, I do apply Chill Clip. And again, dim links down below on all of this. Now, if you are playing solo, then obviously Solar Operative is really good. But if you're with the fire team, then Heart of the Flame is fantastic. Guys, this gives you a ginormous bump in damage to your supers, which the two classes that we're rocking between include our Warlocks here with Don Chorus, which we're going to get into in just a moment, and our Titans with Path of Burning Steps. Now, the fragment combinations, we've already mentioned Ember of Ashes, but these are your other combos that you definitely want to have. We have Ember of Eruption. Your solar ignitions have increased area of effect. Ember of Solace, which states that radiant and restoration effects applied to you have increased duration. Great for staying alive, but again, the main effect here is just keeping radiant up. And then we have Ember of Char. Your solar ignition spreads Scorch to affected targets. And that's it, guys. It's really those four combinations of fragments. Now let's talk the best exotics and classes to utilize with Polaris Lance. We've got Don Chorus. This has the exotic perk Rites of Ember. Your Daybreak projectile deals more damage and scorch targets on impact. It's actually really good this season, guys, with Dawnblade. And I know some of you may be thinking, Cross, who the hell would use Dawnblade in a GM? We used it, and yeah, it was actually good. Now your Scorch is improved, and you gain a small amount of melee energy when your Scorch damages a target. Now I need to mention something about that. First up, your Daybreak projectiles apply 30 Scorch on hit, 40 with Ember of Ashes, and deal 90% increased damage. Again, Don Chorus is the go-to exotic for Dawnblades. But understand this, it does not help increase Scorch stacks from any other source. What I mean by that is that the Scorch that I'm applying with Polaris Lance, it's not applying more Scorch stacks. It's simply increasing the damage of said Scorch. Now it's a lot. It's 200% more damage, which is very nice. And each damage tick grants 5% melee ability energy. So if you're rocking this alongside, say for instance, Incinerator Snap, which can give you that guaranteed ignition with Ember of Ashes, it's beautiful. But I just want to point that out because there is some confusion with Don Chorus. Most people think that it actually improves the Scorch stacks, and that's not the case. It simply improves the damage, which is still nice. Let me just say, playing with this build, I enjoyed it. We were rocking 2 Solar Search mods, stacks on stacks, time dilation, powerful attraction, doing things to buff our damage. But I want to mention something here. Even though we have things buffing our damage, none of this buffs ignition damage. You see, the only exotic, at least that I can think of as of now, and I need to do some testing on Hunter, but the only exotic that is able to scale ignition damage is Path of Burning Steps. Now, despite Path of Burning Steps being nerfed in the past, as at one time, it used to stack both its Firewalker buff and surges together, which was beautiful. It no longer does that. But what it does do is that it allows you to scale ignition damage. And I know you don't see Firewalker there at the bottom of your left-hand screen. It's literally just a solar weapon buff, right? Literally looks like a surge now, which confuses the piss out of me. I wish it was just called Firewalker. Now, this excited me because knowing that ignition damage would scale with Path of Burning Steps, I immediately ran to that exotic and started collecting gameplay. But what we noticed was that things weren't stacking. Ignition damage was not scaling. It was not increasing like it previously was. And we thought for a second that maybe this had been ninja nerfed. But no, guys. Turns out it's Radiant. Radiant, for some reason, messes with the scaling. And the moment Radiant is procced, it no longer allows for Path of Burning Steps to increase our ignition damage. This is a huge killer. Now, you may be wondering, Cross, could we do this without Radiant? My question to that is, why would you? Radiant is a free 25% buff, and considering the arsenal of artifact mods that we have here that benefits you directly for using solar weapons and proccing Radiant, guys, we gotta use Radiant. You gotta have it. And what I'm trying to say with this is that Path of Burning Steps is not the play here. Does it increase your solar damage? Yes. Can you benefit things like Apex Predator in your loadout from this? Absolutely. And again, ability kills, or more specifically, solar grenade final blows, will give you that 4 times solar weapon surge, that being 25% more damage. But if you're just trying to take advantage of Polaris Lance and you don't really care about that, you may want to consider using another exotic. For instance, Phoenix Cradle. You see, Phoenix Cradle comes with the perk Beacons of Empowerment. Soul Invictus lasts twice as long, and allies who pass through your sunspots are granted Soul Invictus and Solar Restoration. Now, here's the kicker with this. You see, on Titan, guys, we have Soul Invictus as an aspect, where solar ability final blows, Hammer of Soul impacts, and defeating Heating scorched targets creates sunspots. Your abilities regenerate faster here, and your super drains more slowly while standing in a sunspot. Now, the sunspots themselves apply scorch and deal damage to targets that are inside. I'm not saying that you can't use Path of Burning Steps. What I'm saying is, considering that Radiant is not allowing us to scale ignition damage, you may want to consider Phoenix Cradle. This allows those sunspots to last longer, and it allows them to affect your allies. There's a reason why during the day one raid for Crota's Inn, we broke out Phoenix Cradle. This allowed us to keep our allies alive. It's a great way to offer support, and if you combine that with Soul Invictus and Roaring Flames, you've got a lot of things really working for you here on Titan. I wish I could stand before you guys and say, yes, Path of Burning Steps, amplifying our ignition damage, and that's actually what I said with Sunshot, but I wasn't taking into account Radiant. You see, when we did the testing without Radiant being procced, and we assumed that these buffs would just go hand in hand together in harmony, but turns out that's not the case. And I don't know if that's intentional or not. I don't even know if ignition damage scaling with Firewalker was ever really by design from Bungie. We love it, and that's why we don't say much about it, but currently right now, it's not working. With all that being said though, guys, Polaris Lance is phenomenal. It allows you to hit your enemies from afar. It gives you that ignition within a single perfect fifth proc, and it gives you back-to-back ignitions every 2 shots after. This is the best solar weapon I have played with this season. Even better than Sunshot, guys. We're gonna be trying out a few others, pretty much covering them all. The next one on the list is Tiku's Divination. I wanna see how nasty we can truly get. And we'll probably break out both Tommy's Matchbook and Skyburner's Oath as well. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Again, dim links down below if you wanna try this out for yourself. Whatever build you utilize though, just try Polaris Lance, guys. You'll be greatly impressed. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching, and as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.